Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Priest. It's a 2011 movie starring Paul Bettany, Maggie Q a bit, Carl Urban a bit, and Thomas Jane cameo. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, there is, the interpretation of vampires in this is much more animalistic than traditional vampires, and they also generally don't have eyes, so it kind of is, it's like a thin, lither, more human-y proportion thing from After Earth, if that makes any sense. So it's an interesting interpretation of vampires and vampirism. So, moving on to the good and the bad. So this movie clearly was set up for a sequel, though they did try and solve enough things to where you could pretend like they solved the things for this one. But with definitely the intention and hoping for a sequel because they didn't solve the big baddie problem. They obviously never got that sequel, rightfully so. I think that this had a lot of potential, but they had some problems with the execution. I love Paul Bettany in this. I love Paul Bettany in most things. I think he's an excellent actor, and man, he is ripped in this one. He doesn't look it with some of the roles that he's played, but he is a buff gentleman. Good for him. Also, Carl Urban is always a win, and he is in this and does a fantastic job as always. But one of the problems is that they had Thomas Jane in this movie, the original Punisher. Awesome dude. For 2 minutes. There was just basically one sequence with him, and then, I don't want to say spoiler alert, but spoiler for what happened to him. He was in this for 2 minutes, and then a bunch of vampires attack, and you hear from his daughter's perspective where she's hiding underground, and you hear this ah! Ooh! Ah! And gunfire and squelching and ripping and tearing noises and whatnot. And then 20 minutes later in the film you find out, oh, he survived and is talking, looking pretty okay for a guy who should have been just torn to shreds. His wife didn't make it, of course, but he somehow made it. What the fuck? And then that's all you see of him. Why are you using Thomas motherfucking Jane for a 2-minute cameo? Maybe they were going to use him more in the sequel. I don't know. But, yeah. There's also many other problems. And I'm going to stick away from the story bits, but kind of more sticking to the action and some of the other sequences that were the problem. So, spoiler alert. But I also don't know how many people are really going to watch this movie or care about spoilers. So, spoiler alert. You've been warned. Okay. So, one of the things that sticks out to me is they're in the vampire, mucus cave or whatever, and then this big beastie, the hive beast, starts trying to attack our human-y character, and then he's like, why isn't he coming down here? And the priest guy's like, he's too big to fit down here. And no, he's not. The openings everywhere, not just above, for where they was looking for where he's trying to come down, but literally every one of the openings was more than big enough for this hive beast to get through. So, that's bullshit. They just wanted to have, scary, and then have the priest go handle it. So that was dumb. And then, they establish how awesome these throw-in stars are, and then, you build up this hive beast, and then Paul Bettany just, does kind of the Rings of Power chick who, when she takes out the cave troll by just, sliding underneath him with, one hit. And, there's a good way to do that and a bad way to do that. The good way is Riddick with the scorpion thing. The bad way is this and the Rings of Power. One of the problems with this one is that they did a thing where I think they thought it was going to be really cool, but they did not pull it off. What it was is that his, helper priest threw a couple of big-ass stones, and so that he was able to, jump up and then jump and use those, to step higher to get to the beast. That's not how physics works in your movie. So don't try and make it work that way for just that sequence because, that'll look cool. Because it didn't look cool because it was just that's not how that works at all. You think we're just going to let that go? Because we don't, and I won't. So that was dumb. And then, they established how strong these priests are. They established that they are strong. But then there's this end thing where he's trying to hold somebody off of a train with one arm, and he's almost dropping her, and she's slipping through his fingers. And it's I thought you were super fucking strong. You don't have any hand strength? What's up with that, bro? It was dumb. And they also made a big deal about this, big fucking cross this weirdly shaped huge cross. And I thought that it was going to be like a button that like shot out a sword, that he was going to be like, but no, it's this giant fucking thing where you pop off one of the sides for an even smaller blade. Like, his throwing star blades that he threw up and then like chucked individually before they fell at the beginning of the movie had more total blade than the little tiny blade on this giant thing that's taking up a whole bunch of room. Yeah, he used it to good effect, but you could have just used a regular throwing star and probably serrated things a bit more than your just single thing. So that was dumb. And some of the things that also didn't make sense was like, they had this cool opening animated sequence to establish the priests, but all of those priests had white crosses tattooed or drawn on their foreheads, and then everyone in the movie actual had brown ones. Is that a rank thing? Is it just you didn't communicate with the animators beforehand? Did you just need to stick out for the animation? Like, did it just look weird? Like, for a white guy to have a white cross? Like, why? Also, it kind of always looked off-center to me. Am I the only one who felt like Paul Bettany's cross was off-center? Is it just his face? Is it just me? I don't know. Is it... whatever. Is it the lighting? I don't know. But it always looked off. So they had that, and they never actually explain how the priests have their power or what that power is. Like, you clearly see that they have beyond normal human abilities. They are faster, stronger, more coordinated. They have amazing, like, he does the thing where he, like, tosses something up and shoots it without looking, like, Hawkeye style. Like, that's cool, but how did you guys come about? And you talk about, like, oh, they developed their abilities later. Like, who? Is it a genetics thing? Was there, like, some experimentation? Like, you have to explain that to me, because you don't when you establish this world, but you explain a whole bunch of other things. You need to explain that, and they don't. I don't know if they were just hoping to explain that or have that be a plot point in a sequel, but you need to make your movie good enough to get that sequel, and you didn't. So while I did think that the vampire interpretation was cool, it does not explain how there are any vampire familiars, because they established there's vampire familiars, but these things are very animalistic and like huge gnawing teeth and claw things. Like, they didn't seem anthropomorphic so much as feral. So, not anthro, but feral. And how would you like be like, wait, don't eat me, I want to be a familiar. Like, I don't understand. And they don't really do a good job of explaining that. So, yeah. Well, another one of the things that they don't explain is, so they have this whole sequence of like, Paul Bettany is like carving crosses into bullets, and he's having this like back and forth with the other guy, like the human that wants to help out, and the human's like, oh, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, I'm better at this than you, and you're terrible, and he's like, no, I'm amazing, look, and then he like takes one of the bullets and like chucks it and like throws a knife and like cuts the bullet in half, and he's like, see, I'm awesome. And shortly after this, we see like the Paul Bettany character like toss up a boatload of throwing stars, and then before they fall, catches and throws them individually. So he's also really good, and like, but he's doing this thing, and then the guy points out, he's like, hey, I thought priests didn't use bullets or guns. And he's like, we don't, these are for you. So this whole time, the priest is giving him shit and saying, like, you're not coming with me, you're not good enough, nothing's good, like, no, this is too dangerous, and you're not good. And then he, like, throws the knife, or he throws the bullet, and so the human throws the bullet, throws the knife, and it's like, I'm even better with a gun. And so he's like, cool, because I was making these for you anyway. Like, why have this bullshit, is he going to come or is he not going to come thing? It does not make any sense whatsoever, in my opinion. And it just was just a bullshit thing, which is what a lot of this movie ends up having. Another one of the things that is bullshit is that, like, they establish this guy is an amazing throwing. Like, he throws the knife to cut a bullet in half. That's cool. And he says he's even better with a gun. And he does a cool thing with the gun at some point, I think. But, like, then he can't lead his target because in the initial firefight with the vampires, like, he misses every single time. And then Paul Bettany's character, who doesn't use firearms, he tosses something up and shoots it without looking. And it's like, and he basically teaches them the basic fucking shit of, like, you need to lead your target. Like, no shit. Has Special Human Boy just been firing at static targets from the day he was born? That's stupid. If you want to have something cool, do the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance thing, where, like, Butch Cassidy, I think it was Butch, no, Sundance Kid. The Sundance Kid was, like, told to, like, just be still and just aim down and fire his gun. And he missed, like, every single time. He's like, can I move? Can I do that again? Can I move? And the guy was like, sure. So then he fires from the hip and is like, and like moves and like bullseyes everything from the hip, because that's how he's used to fucking firing. But they don't establish that there's something different other than, oh, vampires are fast. Like, he should have known that and known how to lead his target after the first shot. Go fuck yourselves. So, yeah, and then, like, speaking of people go fucking themselves, the leader dude of the church of whatever, no explanation for why he's in denial even after seeing the severed head of a vampire. Like, you're still in denial? Bro, come on, like, explain why. Is he under the thrall of a vampire? Is he working for the vampires? Like, it feels like they were hinting or building up to that reveal that never came. Maybe it was going to come in the sequel that they didn't get. I don't know, but that's where we're at. So, and then also, speaking of, like, that area, so they have these awesome, like, super badass, and they do a lot of driving sequences with them where, like, this is 2011, and based on the budget and what I was seeing, like, it looked like, for the most part, that was them on actual bikes in, like, White Sands or something. I don't know, just the desert. That they were riding actual motorcycles, and it looked really cool. And those bikes are really cool, and they're electric, and that's neat. But, aside from the bikes and the weird, like, video confessional thing, this whole show could have been set in the Old West. All the rest of the technology showed, all of the, like, environment that's set up, all the styles of people's dress, all the accents, all the even gun styles, like, everything was Old West style. So I don't know if they thought they were going to do steampunk, but then they were like, let's do sci-fi punk or sci-fi steam. Whatever they were trying for, it failed. Like, if they had just replaced the badass bikes with horses and then just had, like, a priest who didn't give a fuck for the confessional, or just, like, figured out a different sequence to show that Paul Bettany is getting disillusioned, this movie, I think, would have worked better. But it's weird, and I think it's based off a comic book, so maybe they were trying to, like, be somewhat faithful, but it just doesn't work. So piss off the fanboys to have an overall better movie, I guess. But, yeah, having the bikes didn't work. The horses would have solved it, and then not having the confessional, and then boom, you're just in the Old West. So, like, crazy people or not believing this, that, and the other thing about vampires, and then having a fucking train sequence that's like 20 minutes long would have all made sense. It would have worked better, but it didn't. So instead you have this weird, like, they have all this advanced stuff. Why don't they have anything else advanced? That's so weird. So it's just distracting. So, yeah. Overall, I'm going to say that, well, this movie has good actors in it and, like, good style and a neat premise. The execution just breaks the universe too much, their own internal universe, and there's too many things that they don't explain or that they make a big deal about that they don't explain or that shouldn't have been made a big deal about. So I'm going to go with thumbs down, or at least a thumb down, and then meh for the other thumb. So just, I would say you probably skip this movie because of all those problems. Unless that still sounds entertaining to you, in which case, more power to you. I hope you enjoy it and can maybe just have it on in the background while you're doing something else and just tune in for the cool action sequences that some of them are pretty well shot. And it's cool to see them throw the stars up and chuck them individually. That's a neat sequence. There's a couple of other power moments that are pretty neat, but doesn't make up for the rest of the film. So, yeah, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.